Thank you for tuning in, those of you who are here. My name is Elizabeth Yao, and I'm the project manager of Project Jumpstart. And we're really excited to have Austin here for his weekly Tuesday talks on health and wellness. For those of you that don't know him, he is a doctoral trombone student here at Jacobs, and we've been really excited to be able to collaborate with him a lot in the past. In October, he came and did a workshop for us on mobility. And he taught us a lot about like stretching exercises and things that are really important for us to maintain a healthy physical setup as musicians. And then recently he was actually the first prize winner of our innovation competition. Congratulations again, with his functional musician program, as you can see on the screen there. So we're just really excited to have him back with us to collaborate weekly with these Tuesday talks, especially because I know all of us are stuck at home and it's really difficult to, or it provides a lot of unique challenges mentally and physically. So yeah, Austin, if you're ready, just take it away. Oh, and how should we proceed if people have questions? Like, do you want to just wait till the end to do it, or?
Sure, if anybody has any questions, if we're at a good point, feel free to raise your hand. There should be a little icon via your Zoom, and if we don't respond to your raise, feel free to just type your question into the comments, and as soon as I see them, we will answer your questions. There are a lot of points in this presentation. I try to make it as interactive as I could. So there will be points where we stop and we actually communicate with you to answer your question and kind of brainstorm together.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, does that sound good, Elizabeth?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Sorry, got disconnected for a second. Huge shout out to Project Jumpstart for making this happen and making this partnership a reality. You know, there are a lot of important health and wellness conversations that need to happen that aren't happening right now. And this is a great way for us to come together, brainstorm and communicate and kind of work together in a way to promote our own musician health and wellness. So thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Joni. And thank you, Project Jumpstart, for your support. So this is going to be a 6-week course on adapting, changing, and growing to the situation around us. But before I get into any topics, I just want to talk about how I got here really quick and kind of my background on musician health and wellness. So around 3 years ago, I started getting physical injuries from over practicing, sitting down all the time, attending rehearsals, and not really listening to the signs my body was telling me. So it came to a point where I was in my second injury. The first one, I blew out my forearm. The second one, I received a back injury that took me about 6 months to get over. I said that is enough. I'm just going to do the best I can in this situation and learn as much as I can and see if I can find a way to make sure this doesn't happen. I mean, when we get injured, we have physical therapists and we have people that are designed to rehabilitate us, but we don't have a lot of options out there as musicians for prehabilitation or really just injury prevention before it happens. So I started diving into sports science. I started diving into other areas of wellness, such as nutrition, and started getting these certifications. As you see, I have a certification in personal training, corrective exercise, and nutrition coaching. And as I get older and as research comes out, I start to branch out and strategically gain certifications that can be relatable to musician health and wellness. So anyway, over the course of these 3 years, I've been acquiring these certifications, and I created the Functional Musician. It's an online health and wellness brand dedicated to helping college musicians integrate sustainable health and wellness habits into their life. All of these concepts are research and scientifically supported, and if at any point those changes, I will of course adapt my methodology and my concepts to appropriate that. We have a website, thefunctionalmusician.com. We also are on Facebook, and as of right now, we are on Instagram and are releasing a monthly workout program a day at a time that you can follow at home if you have a pair of dumbbells or even if you don't have any kind of equipment at all. So this is a perfect transition into what we are going to learn in the next 6 weeks. Each week, we're going to talk about a theme. We're going to talk about a health and wellness concept. And we're also going to give you one applicable habit that you can start to integrate in your life or experiment with. You know, we all have certain habits. We're all in different circumstances, and we all learn differently and cope differently. So I'm sure we all have certain habits that we have built in our life that help us be our best selves and help us grow and help us learn. I'm just here offering you a resource as a different perspective. And there, like I said, there are moments where we brainstorm all together. So my hope is that you guys can take some kind of tidbit of information and try to apply it to your life. And the whole goal of this health and wellness talk is to adapt to the situation that we're in, is to learn, and most importantly, to sustainably grow in the long term, because we do not know how long this coronavirus is going to last. You know, I had a lesson earlier with a teacher, and he said, you know, as we start to transition to these online resources, this could change teaching for the way we know it. We have all of these tools available, and even if we go back to face-to-face teaching, we want to be able to learn and grow even if things are changing. So with that said, today's theme is mindset and mindfulness. As I said earlier, we're going into an unknown time. Things are constantly being adapted, opportunities are being lost, and isolation is the number one priority. So the first thing I want to encourage people to do is accept what we cannot accept. These are all circumstances outside our control. So what we want to do is, as soon as we accept that we cannot change this and deal with the situation, the sooner we're going to be able to adapt, grow, and change. Before we go on, I just thought it'd be a great time to ask everybody else, due to different circumstances and different coping mechanisms and different situations, what are you experiencing? Maybe you're experiencing some positive feelings because you finally get some much needed quality time with your family. Or perhaps you're feeling productive because you're finally alone. Or maybe you're feeling grief because school, face-to-face schooling got canceled. So would anybody like to share what they're experiencing? All you have to do is wave, or if you don't feel comfortable talking out loud, you can write in the chat and we will respond that way. Sure.
I can go ahead and share. So, hi, Mireya.
Hi, how are you?
You go ahead. I'm good. How are you?
Okay. Well, I wanted to say that at first I almost felt like a little bit of relief that there was like lots of things coming up during these weeks, and it was a little bit of like, oh, now I have time to just like enjoy the spring and a little bit of like time for myself. I've been doing exercise and things like that, but then it was also I feel like without the pressure of like having to play in recitals, then it's like I feel like it's harder to find motivation, and it's harder to find like to be productive in a good way. I think sometimes it's nice to relax, but it's also like to find like the reason to practice and the reason to keep going. So it's like positive and negative aspects.
Yeah, it's
totally. That is totally valid. Is it Mireya?
Mireya, yeah.
Mireya. Yeah, I actually felt the same way. I was a little relieved because I was just pretty overwhelmed, and I was pretty stressed out because of all the things we had to do. And when it happened, I was a little bit relieved, but as the situation started to expand, I started to feel a little bit more grief, a little bit sad because of all these opportunities that I lost. And I'm not the only one who lost opportunities, obviously, but you know, I was pretty sad. It took me about a week to kind of adjust and you know, accept it. It was hard. Thank you for sharing.
No problem.
Someone anonymous said, I'm not as comfortable with technology as I would like to be, and that causes anxiety. Well, that is okay. You know, learning something new can be difficult. And I'll be honest, the first time that I tried Zoom, it caused a little bit of anxiety too. But I want to encourage you that the next time you try to do this, that is going to get easier. And just like with any skill, you know, we have to start somewhere. And, you know, if you can recognize that it causes anxiety, perhaps there's something you can do to relieve that anxiety or prevent it from happening. Maybe through experimentation or a little meditation or, you know, whatever you feel like you need to do to help you get comfortable with that. So, is there anything else that anybody would like to share before we move on? All right, well, fantastic. So, go back to our theme about mindset. Big thing that we have to do is we have to consider mindset shifting. You know, like I said, everybody's situation is different. Everyone copes differently. And that's the beauty about being humans. So we need to recognize what we need to do to recover from stress and get to a point where we can be productive in an isolated way. You know, if we set up all of these mental health and wellness, what are they called? Mental health and wellness, I don't want to say blocks, but key triggers that help us be productive, we can set our life up in a way where productivity and happiness are reign supreme above everything else. The last thing you probably want to consider is that this is a marathon and not a sprint. If you go on social media, you're going to notice everybody's putting out new products of their playing, or they're you know, putting out new workouts, or they're encouraging productivity and you sprinting out of the gate. But you're going to find that, you know, a month, 2 months, 3 months down the road, these people are going to fall off the social media planet because they burned out. They didn't consider that their time is energy, and they're burning energy at an exponential rate. So if we're not mentally adjusted to the situation and strategically planning for the long term, we're going to burn out. And that's something we want to avoid. I mean, many of us have probably experienced that at some time during our academic career, and it can be very difficult to get over if we have countless obligations to fulfill. So we're going to go back to you guys. Using the chat feature, you can choose to speak if you want to, but I want to encourage everybody to go to the chat, and I want you to list some strategies or habits you have implemented into your life that help you cope. And I want to use this as a brain. There are no right and wrong answers, but this is mostly so everybody can see what everybody does personally. So for me, I have regular exercise as probably the #1 priority for me that helps me cope. As soon as I exercise, I start feeling myself. I start feeling focused. And I know I can be productive after I get that done. Walking the dog. Dogs need exercise too. Walking stimulates the brain and helps wake the brain up. I'm trying to exercise and keep myself physically active. That is fantastic. And we're actually going to touch a little bit upon that today. But humans were designed to move. And the more we sit around and the less we move, the more anxiety can build up. I've been going on long drives to remind myself of my own independence. That's fantastic. I wish I could drive. We actually just got a house stay in Florida, so we're not allowed to drive on the roads unless we're going to grocery stores. But I also miss driving, and I can see how that would promote some independence. I'm trying to still have a regular routine and not sleep in even when I have nothing in the morning. Waking up too late makes me sluggish. That's perfectly acceptable too, depending on how stressed you were going into spring break. Sometimes sleeping in can be a sign that maybe you weren't getting as much sleep as you needed to. You know, and just accepting that can be rewarding in ways. And we're going to touch more upon regular routine next week, actually. So feel free to tune in, Elizabeth, on that. I've continued to run. I am right now. Congratulations, I'm not a runner. Setting new goals constantly that I can accomplish on a daily basis, and good food, and staying in touch with others. These are so important. I love that you touched upon staying in touch with others. That's something that I didn't really do the first week and a half. And it wasn't until a couple of days ago that I started reaching out to friends and family and relatives, and started feeling human again. You know, when we're isolated, it can be so easy to get into our own world, so easy to think negative thoughts that we lose sight of that human connection that we actually need to survive. Setting new goals constantly, Elizabeth, that can go back to setting a regular sleep schedule. If you have goals and something you're working upon, that's going to motivate you to get out of bed. It's going to motivate you to, almost going to trick your body into having more energy. Something that I've been trying to is meditation. I've been meditating daily, and that seems to quiet my thoughts. And we're going to touch upon that in a little bit as well. Does anybody want to share anything else before we move on? Dedicated time to disconnect from electronics, usually by reading. Ryan, that is a fantastic comment too. I'm not a reader myself, but find that disconnecting from electronics can be super, super empowering. And I find that when I don't disconnect from electronics, I'm just, checking my Instagram or Facebook almost, not purposefully, just like I touch my phone, I open it up and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? That's super important. Picking a local restaurant with delivery to support every several days. Local support of your business is fantastic. I support that as well. I have a secret worry with the coronavirus in restaurants, but that hasn't really been talked about, researched, or proven yet. So that's my own fear, but I love that you're supporting other businesses. So perfect. Those are all great things. Let's move on since we're running a little short on time. Thank you everybody for communicating. So here's some things that I wrote down that have helped me, and I've researched, and that help other people as well. Limit social media time. We touched upon that. Journaling, right? Writing down 3 things you are grateful for every day in the morning or at night before you go to bed has been studies shown have proven to increase positivity, the positive mindset. Positive mindset is actually a skill. And if we do this every day, our positive mindset actually gains strength and can counter those negative thoughts that come into our head on a regular basis. For productivity tips, if you write down 3 things that must be done that day, no matter what, that's going to hold you accountable. And 3 seems like the perfect number because it's not overwhelming and it's not too small where you don't feel like your day is insignificant. You want to move, you want to walk, you want to do some type of exercise. We touched upon this earlier, but humans were designed to move. And it doesn't matter what form or medium that is. You could run, yoga, do mobility, or swim. But moving helps wake up the brain. It serves as a stimulus to your body, and it can help reduce anxiety and also help focus and creativity. The benefits are endless, and I will stop my rant. And so the last thing here, the last 2 things, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling anxious, or if you notice doing a certain activity makes you feel anxious, become aware. Awareness is the first step to really countering any kind of anxiety. And if you can pinpoint what's causing the anxiety, that's your first step to not feeling anxious with that activity. So that would go right in with journaling. Write down what you feel anxious about, and just writing that down can really help. And last but not least, I encourage people to take up an old hobby or learn something new if they can. Most of us might be at our old homes where all of our old toys or all of our old, hobbies are. So if you have some time, if you're finding that you're overwhelmed and you can't think straight, stepping away from music or stepping away from life to focus on something fun, something you can do to be creative will go a long way and actually serve other creative areas of your life, such as music, practicing, or even goal setting. So last but not least, I want to transition into our applicable habit of the week. And I don't know, maybe everybody here is already meditating, but I want to encourage everybody to try meditating for 5 minutes a day this week. meditation is linked to mindfulness. It's linked to longevity of life, and we want to be able to cultivate that into our lives. If you look at high performers in other areas of life, not just music, but athletic, business, apparel, corporate people, they're all incorporate some kind of daily meditation or mindfulness, and that's going to add energy, clarity, and focus to your daily life. But most importantly, it's going to help you live in the moment and do your best in the moment. Well, why is it important? Well, we have something called a default mode network. Essentially, it's a large-scale brain network that connects the different regions of the brain and can run these different regions of the brain simultaneously. So if you imagine you have 30 apps open on your phone, that's essentially what your default mode network is. And if you can imagine, if your phone is a certain speed, if you're running 30 apps at one point, that's really going to slow down your hardware. It's really going to start to degrade the performance of your phone and even the life of your phone. So we want to be able to shut off all of those apps. And if we can do that, we're going to reduce anxiety, increase focus, and most importantly, live in the moment. So some signs that you're in the default mode network is if it's most active when we ruminate. So rumination is the idea of a thought occurring after a thought in a negative way. So for example, well, I didn't have a good lesson yesterday because I couldn't articulate, and I can't articulate because I didn't go to this school, and because I didn't go to this school, I'm not going to get this job that I want, and if I don't get that job what I want, I'm eventually going to go homeless. I'm going to have to choose this field and X, Y, Z. And as you can imagine, if you start stacking those thoughts upon one another, you can see how someone would get some anxiety from that. So we must learn how to shut that off. And we can do that through mindfulness, through meditation, focusing on the breath. And at the end of this presentation, I have a resource that has a list of fantastic free websites and apps that you can download to your phone or go online that all have free meditation resources, from the science to how to do it, to beginners, to advanced techniques. So before we end, does anybody want to share does anybody have an experience with meditation and would like to share how it's positively impacted their life or perhaps negatively impacted their life? And you can do this by the chat or you can raise your hand. It does not matter to me. Sure, S-Mass, feel free to share.
I did more so when I was an undergrad than in grad school. I just haven't been focusing very well on it, but I used to have a meditation sort of process that I did where I would close my eyes and pretend that I was in a space with a lot of like holes that I could put my problems into. Like they were all just spinning around in the air, and I would select them and look at them and be like, this is what I'm thinking about. And I would put it in its own cabinet and close the door. And by the end of it, I would have one left, and that's the one that I would focus on. And it really helped me to not feel so confused and overwhelmed by having so many different things to do. If you can just like go into a really personal space and call out each thing that's worrying you by its name, and just be like, well, this still exists, but I don't have to look at it right now. So that was really helpful for me.
That sounds fantastic. May I ask, how did you feel as you started doing the meditation more and more?
It really helped. I felt calmer and weirdly more alert and less sensitive. I would even sometimes take just a couple seconds to do that, like during chamber rehearsals and stuff like that. If somebody else was getting attention, then I had a moment to sort of be like, okay, get a handle on this. And it would help me sort of get back from the ledge of maybe taking a comment the wrong way or getting frustrated with other people or any of those sort of responses that come when you're just feeling kind of raw and sensitive. So for me, it just helped sort of mitigate that sort of stressed out sensitivity that I sometimes feel.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. That was a great story and great experiences. And I just have one more question for you, if you don't mind. You mentioned that you did this a lot in your undergrad. I can relate to this a little bit, but why did you stop? And have you taken it back up?
I think that I stopped because I took a year off in between my degrees, and I got out of a lot of my habits because I wasn't under so much pressure. And then when I started my degree here, there was a huge learning curve, and I kind of got swept under it a little bit. But I gave a recital last semester and ended up with a lot of resistance in that area. So I did pick up a lot of my meditation again, especially getting close to the recital. I got in the space and just meditated in the recital hall, and got into a lot more of those habits, and it made 100% of difference. Like, I went from not being able to play through my program to really, really fulfilling recital. So I'm very much in support of these kind of things.
Yeah, that's so good to hear. Congratulations on the recital. That's amazing. I experienced the same thing, actually. I got into meditation when I started taking Frank Diaz's class. I forget what it's called. I think it's mindful techniques or mindfulness. And I encourage everybody, if they have a chance, to take it. It definitely positively impacted my life. But what I noticed was the direct impact to my performance. I had a recital that semester, and I did the same thing, and I couldn't get through the program either. And by the day after the day of the recital, I was meditating for about 2 months, and I was very happy with how it went. Although we can always improve, but the meditation completely changed the performance aspects in that way. And the thing with any skill, even if it benefits us, it can be so easy to just put it to the side because we don't feel anxious or we don't feel like we need it. But just with any skill, as we build that up and as we incorporate that into our life, the more you do it, the more money you put into the bank, the more investment you're going to get out of it. So fantastic. I think someone posted in the chat. Oh, I love the visual of that. Nice. Cool. Well, thank you everybody for joining me. We're right at the end here. And I just want to thank everybody for coming out. It's a short talk. I hope everybody got something out of it. Next week, we're going to be talking about the daily habits that add energy, clarity, and focus. And this involves with goal setting. This goes with sleep habits. This goes with nutrition, as well as movement, and a couple of other things that I don't want to give away. If you're looking for mindfulness resources, Joni is sharing everybody a mindfulness resource that you can download straight to your computer. If you cannot get that download, it's available on the functionalmusician.com/blog. I just posted that. So there's about a list of 15 to 20 mindfulness resources that are all free except for one that you can check out. And if you just dropped in or you want to refer someone to this video is going to be uploaded to the Facebook events page, Tuesday Talks, so you're able to see and watch it at another time. So with that said, thank you again for coming. Before we leave, are there any questions or comments about today?
One thing I wanted to ask was, as I was thinking about all the coping strategies that people have been sharing, I would really love to just share those on the Jumpstart Facebook or Instagram, like anonymously without names attached. So if you guys are okay with that, I would love to do that. If you're not okay with it, feel free to just like send me an email privately. That's totally fine too. But yeah, I'll share them on our Instagram story or something, and I think it'll help a lot of people.
Thank you. That would be fantastic. So anyway, thank you everybody for stopping in. Thank you Project Jumpstart for making this happen. Be sure to tune in next week for our talk on energy, clarity, and focus. And if you have any comments, feel free to reach out to Project Jumpstart or me personally, and I'll be sure to get back to you as soon as I can.